Let's go on with another angry rant. You can't tell from behind me, I'm a fairly large comic book fan. Now, that, I was consider that my first love from when I was like 7 or 8, when I first got my first issue of Spider Man, which I bought another copy a couple months, finally let myself buy another copy of it a couple months ago. But this is about being an artist, a creative of any sort, while being brainwashed into a cult or indoctrinated, because you know the way my the religion, the cosmogony, the understanding of the world, and understanding of good and evil really influenced the way I created stories. I was never pressured into including um, Mormonism or Christianity into my work, but because it was so much part of my daily life to begin with, that it did, as well as the fact of, as many people have put up, even though there is some truth to this as an outsider looking in, of the persecution complex, but it is definitely magnified beyond reality. But because of that kind of concept of, I decided to try and make some Mormon superheroes. I have, a whole story that I created around called Time and All Eternity, which comes from the concept of, eternal families, as well as, some of my most important characters. I have this huge superhero epic I've been working on in bits and pieces for, since I was started when I was 8. When I first started creating superheroes and drawing comics in my spiral notebooks instead of paying attention in school. Yeah, I was not a good student. All I ever wanted to do was draw comic books or become a fighter. Didn't get to do. Well, I still can make comic books, but I'm way too old to try and get in MMA. But yeah, um, so this huge epic where the main um, conflict was the fact that the adversary, Satan, our fallen brother, because he is so miserable that he does not get a body, that was the greatest conflict that I could think of. Was, all the supervillains were fighting alongside demons. Well, I had the Demoness and Neo Augustine were the two big bad guys who were trying to get the adversary a body, and then you had Shadow Man and Abinadi, because of the story of Abinadi just resonated with me so well. And so that was the major conflict of that whole epic. There was there were secular aspects to it. There were the super soldiers instead of superheroes. I'm still working on it now, but I've had to go through and, it's like I had the whole thing plotted because I was going to finally allow myself to create it. No excuses, no bullshit. I was going to let myself create it. And so I plotted the entire epic that I've been working on 3 pieces of 9x12 Bristol and stuck it to my wall. And that was about a month, maybe a month and a half before I realized Mormonism was bullshit. And so last week, there's a writers group here in Iowa City, the writers room. I volunteer with them, but I went there with the purpose of just having another writer to talk to about removing, the Mormonism, all the symbolism, all, just like the simple fact that I couldn't even call that story Time and All Eternity anymore, because that belief does not make sense to me anymore. So I tentatively just called it Ouroboros, because it was, yeah, because the heart of that conflict is having 2 sides pick champions, but they give them, it's the whole martial, skill versus power, so that's one of the main themes of that. Because yeah, there is a lot of violence. I write very fairly violent stuff, but yeah, once I actually start working on it more because I'm still writing the first one. But yeah, that stuff just permeates every day of your life, everything you do. Like I said, my first love was comic books, drawing, writing, creating, enjoying. I mean, and there are books that my parents wouldn't let me get. Now it's like I'm half tempted to start looking up Lady Death back issues because I always wanted to read it. But right now it just says Rebellion. I mean, I started collecting Vampirella. And those are actually pretty good. The new Vampirella series, I'm enjoying it. Not just for I got the covers on the other wall, but yeah, covers are nice too. But as well as there's another series or another story I was working on, which was an adaptation of Captain Moroni. So it's like I had the persecution complex was so complete in my mind that I thought, as well as seeing how society in general is moving more towards atheism. So I was like, okay, let's take how I understand society to be and what I understand truth to be. And so what would happen if the second coming doesn't happen for thousands of years? And so it's like there's an atheist one world society that forced religion off the planet. And so the Mormons, the Jews, Islam, even had it in there as feminism as a religion. They were all forced off the planet. And so you had this, building up this whole story around defending your faith. That was the important thing, was defending the church. And here I even had, that it made sense for the church to have their own theocracy. I mean, all these places would have theocracies to one extent or another. But yeah, I wrote it as a theocracy, an interplanetary theocracy called the Deseret. It's like now I don't even know if I can salvage anything but the basic concept of trying to explore tribalism as it relates to interstellar politics. And so I might not be able to finish that story ever. And it kind of sucks because it was a fun story to write and rewrite, as well as I have a fantasy universe that I've worked on here and there for like 15, 20 years. Depression's a bitch. Depression makes everything difficult. You can get a streak of I'm not going to go into that, but no, it's trying to incorporate Mormonism into a fantasy setting where one of the supporting characters, the main purpose of it was to explore repentance. Not redemption, repentance. In other words, here's a man who's done horrible, horrible things. Rape, murder, burning, genocide. He was Bryant the Unkillable. And he had to finally realize he was a bad person. And he had to make amends to his God, who he didn't even believe in. So it's like the brainwashing is just absolute. It's complete. It just permeates every aspect of your life. And yeah, it's like I got the plot. Thankfully, the first story in that huge superhero epic was inspired largely by one of my favorite anime, Takagami Guardian of Darkness. Which I was so repressed when I saw that at I think I was 19 when I was 19 or 20, but yeah. But anyway, yeah, they have the typical bath scene in there, and that's how repressed I was. I guess I won't get too graphic about it, but yeah. But yeah, where it's the Shinto Izanagi and Izanami, their creation myth, and how where they have Susanoo, who's very much like, very similar to Bio Booster Armor Guyver, which is my all time favorite. That and Neon Genesis Evangelion and Battle Angel Alita. Those are the three best, in my opinion. Three I enjoy the most. Let's put it that way. But anyway, yeah, it's just knowing how much of my own creative endeavors. I mean, I've done some abstract paintings and shit to, there'd be periods where I'd paint temples and draw temples because that was the right thing to do, and that's what would make my wife happy because she was a brainwashed cultist too. She didn't like me doing my angry shit, which, to a degree that it's good to express your emotions, but it's not good to wallow in them. But, that's kind of why I'm doing this, is so I can just talk about this shit. But, yeah, I guess this is one time where I'm not going to, because even though I did label this channel Angry Ex-Mormon, it doesn't mean I will be yelling and screaming all the time. I'm not James Rolfe, an angry video game nerd, or any of that shit. But if I do get angry, if I do need to yell, I will yell. But I'll probably put headphone warning. But yeah, this is just something I need to talk about, something to express. So if you made it this far, thank you. If you didn't, thank you anyway.